Hey, what's up, Toby? We made it another week. Process
Woohoo!
podcast.
Hey, buddy. Glad to be joining you
No,
again for another week.
I
We'll
know
just keep on
you got the
keep on
topic
rolling.
for this week.
Yeah, something that has been top of mind because you and I have been encountering this a lot in our work at Magic Button Labs, and it's that so oftentimes I think, and when I think about when I was the client on the receiving end of services around technology, my view of a consultant was this all-knowing X-ray vision expert that could walk in and magically put their finger on the broken thing.
Yeah.
And it's been a minute. I've shared in the past, I've been on the consulting side now for a couple decades, but not so much focused on systems as we do at Magic Button Labs. Most of my work was management consulting.
Yep.
And what's interesting is that oftentimes in our work around the Monday.com platform for clients, there's a perception that a client's fluency is going to be matched by an expert when they walk through the door.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot like, I'm curious as to what your feeling was, but a series of conversations last week put this all top of mind. And it's that it's like coming over to somebody's house and they say, I don't know why dinner isn't coming together correctly.
Yeah.
And they expect you to know what drawer holds all the silverware. They expect you to know where the measuring cups are hidden. And they expect you to know at a glance at the refrigerator whether they're using expired ingredients. And the difficulty, and part of the reason why I bring it up is two reasons, and I'll start there. It's a question of how we show grace and also how we manage expectation.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes our goal at Magic Button Labs is to really help people understand what their outcome is, right?
Yep.
And that's talk in the past.
Yep.
Clear about outcome and about how the process works today before we move it into software.
Yep.
Is how we scrub process debt.
Yeah.
But last week, several conversations about people coming in and saying, my kitchen's a disaster. I can't find my measuring cups. It's like, I don't even know if you've ever owned measuring cups. You appear to have all metric cookbooks and you have empirical measuring devices. Like this is the heart of your mismatch. I don't know, Chris. I mean, you've been doing delivery now to a number of clients.
Yep.
How much of this do you think is, and I realize a lot of it's been coming into brand new instances where you have the opportunity to set expectations about how SaaS systems want to be architected. But in those instances where you've gone in and been asked to troubleshoot, is there something you do to try to set expectations so that they don't just magically assume the whole world is laid out like theirs?
No, that's a good question.
So it's not just me, I guess.
No, that's an interesting one, right? Because most people use tools at probably a 50% capacity from a feature-rich standpoint.
Yeah. I would agree, like at best. And if we think about the more sophisticated the system, probably the lower percentage we use.
Correct.
Yeah. But even Microsoft Suite, I see people using Excel to make grocery lists and never will formula, or Word docs, and they glaze over when you say mail merge, myself included,
No, it's totally true. Like, so what's interesting is I would say we limit our capacity in our day jobs by using tools less than we should because we don't know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
And then the mess that we are living with in our email, which is most people's productivity tool, is less than ideal.
Yeah.
And we don't leverage the actual features that would make our lives easier because either it's one person that's using it and we can't scale that to more than one. So if you think about like most CRM tools have some really cool features if you stay within that tool, but most people are like, I'm just going to text message someone or I'm going to send an email from Outlook or wherever. And you lose some capabilities. And, and it's just, it's interesting, right? Because we have our day jobs to do. And most of the
Mm,
time our day jobs don't involve implementing new software. And so
agreed.
it's the minimum viable path to get my boss off my ass.
Which probably doesn't include a stop at the way station, clean up your crap process before you roll it into new technology, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. You touch on the motivation oftentimes why we as individuals go looking for new tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple episodes ago, we were saying, it doesn't even, you could go through all the motion as long as you really take a hard look at your process and
Yep.
address the deficiencies, you can reintroduce yourself
Yep.
right back into whatever you're using,
Yeah.
whatever process. But I think you struck on it. And the motivation often is there's a perception, there's a perceived gap
Yep.
in performance. And it's either it's not turning fast enough, or I'm producing too many errors, or it's not timely responses. There's a variety of those factors, but oftentimes we translate that into go find new software,
Yeah. Well, what's
you know?
interesting is you also like the interesting part about this is like, and I think where implementations can go bad is when you
Mhm.
don't meet the people where they're at technically, you can overwhelm, right? Because it's like we are we are fantastic as humans if we are close to the goal. Like if we know
Mhm.
what the goal is and we're close to the solution, we are fantastic. If we are farther away and get confused, we are we are terrible. It's fascinating. There's the blame game. There's the why didn't it?
Sure.
What when I saw the marketing slick in a YouTube channel, YouTube video, it wasn't this way, right? It's the
Yeah.
consistent like conflict between the what was the perception of what was going to be delivered and the reality, and how
Yeah.
that matches that individual's workflow is completely different.
Chris, it's funny because depending on what hat we wear,
Mhm.
these days I'm setting on the account management and selling side, right? And
Yep.
so my desire, like every salesperson ever that commits the same sins, it's like, I want to be customer centric.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that they have a problem and then be really clear about whether it's a problem we can help solve or
Yep.
not. And we also, in our desire to help them address the problem, it's like, how do I advocate to get them
Sure.
the support they need as quickly as possible? Having said all of that, there's a consequence in being super customer centric and trying to get them the solution as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Because one of the examples that struck me last week was a case where we were just a cultural misfit
Yeah.
in terms of who the prospect, what they needed and required in
Mhm.
terms of had their approach in the world versus how we move.
Yep.
We just completely missed one another.
Yeah.
And I've thought back about that from an expectation setting, and I thought my goal was to be as quick as possible to get a technical resource in front of them. The truth is, I think they probably would have been served to click around and really swim in their problem deeply,
Yeah.
right? And have shown all the things that they thought they were
Yep.
doing and trying to do in a sales cycle before I brought a professional into
Yeah.
the conversation. And so I think you touch on something really interesting about where are they in the journey and are we meeting them there? Because I didn't say to our technical resource, let's go all the way back and have them try to explain
Yeah.
their deficiencies in the tool. And typically what we hear is the deficiencies in their understanding, right?
Yeah.
How the technology works, but also their process.
Well, I think part of the where process debt comes in here a lot
Yeah.
is most of the time people um, struggle communicating.
Hmm.
And most of the time people won't experiment when it comes to tools that they use. Right.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're using software, right? So like software can do all sorts of things, but if it stays academic, it's very easy to get frustrated because it
Oh boy.
should do this. And we run into that a
Yeah.
lot where it's like, the tool should do this. And then you're like, well, How exactly would you like the email to be tied to the software record? How does the system know that it needs to tie? Do you want to tie all of your emails to the record? And when you start to go from like the high level, what I want, down to the
Mm.
tactical, how it happens, most people have a really hard time. You're either in the tactical or you're in the, this is how it should be done. And it's rare in which people can kind of go up and down the layers.
From
Um,
the very high bird's eye view down into the very discrete
correct.
mechanics,
Correct.
flipping switches. Yeah.
Generally, like when we've been very successful in our implementations, we have someone who is high level, can make the decisions, and we have someone who's technical that can basically use the tool. And it's when you have the person using the tool that's showing the person that can make the decision, this is how it's going to be done, that it ends up being very successful. Because we love, I think this is one of the debts that come with AI is that
Mhm.
it's super cute.
It's very cute.
It is very cute. It can organize things. It can categorize things. It can put things in lists. It can move stuff around. It is
Right.
fantastic. And you're like, but how does that help your customer? Right now, hey, full transparency. I use it to write emails all the time. Like it is super helpful. You know, transcripts from meetings,
Yeah.
fantastic. And the cuteness of aligning our world into nice little boxes, it it looks good on the shop floor, but when you take it home, you're like, well, now I've got a list of 500 things that I don't want to do. Are those the right things? I don't know.
Yeah. Chris, you touched on a couple pieces because I think at the heart of it, there's work that anytime we sign up, everything we own owns us, right?
Yeah.
Everything we own has a maintenance.
Yeah.
We have to find a place to put it. We
Yep.
have to remember where we put it. That's before we use it,
Yeah.
right? And then anything that we have to construct or set up, or configure has some maintenance requirement around it. And so from a process step perspective, I think, what this last week and a couple of these examples brought to mind for me was that there's work that anyone can do to improve their own documentation, right? And so, uh, at a minimum, if I come into your kitchen to help you troubleshoot whatever
Yeah.
meal you're preparing, you're going to have to tell me where you've hidden pots and pans
Yep.
and where I can find the tools to prepare a meal or, the software equivalent. But you also have to be able to show me the recipe. Like,
Yeah.
what is the process that you think you were going to follow?
Yep.
And maybe it's in the wrong units of measure. Maybe it's in a language I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, there's some early translation stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
There is a really weird dynamic when you are trying to figure out how something is done, when
yeah.
they're using a vocabulary that you don't fully understand or relate with.
Ye
And sometimes those words matter and sometimes they don't. And you're trying to translate that into a system or process or documentation. Like
Yeah.
it's very funny. Like when I was younger, I was like, words don't matter and time, none of this stuff matters. And you're like, gosh, colors, like, man, you want to start World War III, change a
Oh boy.
color from green to orange and look out, like people will lose their minds.
That's flirting with danger right
It
there.
totally is.
Color changes are maybe an entire topic to be
Oh yeah.
TBD. No, the in the spirit of this though, and how we help listeners think differently about process debt, and specifically about the tools they use, certainly documentation and then clarity around the actual process it's supposed to be supporting.
Yep.
Those two feel like non-negotiables. Are there things that you think clients should ask maybe before bringing in a consultant to help to clean up an existing, process or an existing technology configuration? Because that's every bit as important. I don't know that clients really ask us probing questions to fully assess during the sales cycle if we're going to be able to help them.
Yeah. I think that there is probably baskets of low hanging fruit that their people have told them forever.
Yeah.
And consultants and implementations and tool changes basically expose those. And that's always odd when you're when you're on the receiving side.
Yeah.
I've been saying that since '04 that
That's right.
we needed to switch this thing, and you're probably right. Like there is
Yeah.
probably something there. Now that
I
being
love that.
said, that doesn't necessarily mean that the squeaky wheel is always right.
Sure.
Sometimes they're just the squeaky wheel, and that's not necessarily the best. Um,
And that problem in '04 may have also evaporated by 2015, but they're
uh,
still banging the drum because they've never been heard.
yeah, that is
So,
correct.
yeah,
That is
I hear you.
correct. And the other thing is like what executives like the flashy stuff. And
Yes.
so most likely the non-flashy stuff that will basically you fix once,
Mhm.
you know, you fix once and it goes away forever. Like, the last, my last job, there's a job, there's something that I could literally save half of the errors that they're getting.
Oh,
I know exactly how to do it. It'd probably take 2 weeks of dev effort, but it's not flashy. It's not important. The problem would be solved in one location and the solution would actually be felt on the other side of the world. And therefore it's not an important problem.
which is why it's so important prior to engaging consultants to at least have a grasp
Yeah.
of what's the pain, but also where would the benefit land?
Yeah. And I
'Cause
think
there
a lot of it's
that's
just systems thinking, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff that we talk about, probably because I've got an operations degree, comes from that operations of like
Sure.
moving physical product. And
Yep.
it is basically translating that to the human element where knowledge work is different,
Yeah.
right? It's more social. It's harder in some ways and it's easier in a lot of ways. And, the processes that we do and the tools that we live in, if you think of like, if you think about CRMs in general,
Yeah.
it's amazing that Salesforce has done as well as they have because who loves using tools? The sales team. They're crushing it all the time. Like no, they just have access to the money.
They love them every bit as little as everybody else,
Yeah.
right? It's just that oftentimes their performances are tied to data entry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really true. Well, I like that call out about um, both the systems thinking, but also this last element, think about who the audience is.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to bring in a third party to help clean up process or clean up
Yeah. Yeah.
technology. Anytime, you're drawing this plane of demarcation,
Yep.
this was the old way and tomorrow begins the new way. You also have some change that
Yep.
people have to be able to absorb.
Yeah.
Um,
The one thing that I would call out here, which is like super important,
yeah,
and maybe we can kind of wrap here, but
yeah,
when we try to change processes and we are not immune, a magic button,
no,
when we feel stress, we want change, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that
sure.
that's the correct process change. You can almost always win when it comes
Mm.
to process and process efficiency when you simplify and you verify.
Mm.
Like,
Chris, you trying to put us out a bit? Wait a second. Verify.
like
I'm gonna
I
have to react to this portion of today's podcast. That's
no,
I totally agree. I
what's
totally,
funny is like I was just thinking about some of the stuff that we've done to kind of make our lives
yeah,
easier. And it
sure,
was basically a one-time change that was cute,
yeah,
that we didn't maintain, that we didn't have a process to maintain. We didn't have a tool to maintain. And so that's all it was, is it was simply cute.
it was a total one-off
Correct. And it alleviated
treatment.
some stress. It helped
Yeah,
us in the moment. And that's all it did.
simplify, verify.
Simplify and verify.
Chris's deal for disrupting modern economics as we know them.
Yeah.
But that's a heck of a place to start because then the money you spend is money well spent.
100%.
I could probably apply that to my next plumbing or electrical project.
You can almost like, and part of simplifying is giving yourself enough time to do the work, which
Mm.
that in my mind is this work work thrash that we're all dealing with. Give yourself
Yeah, great.
time, simplify, verify, track, simple stuff, block and tackle,
And then phone a friend.
and then phone a friend. Absolutely.
Love it.
All right,
Good
man.
stuff. Thanks for wrestling through this
Yep.
with me,
See you
Chris.
next week, man.
See ya.
Bye.